All right, thanks for joining our second podcast for Dominions 5 at turn 30. Well, you guys won't have seen turn 30 yet, but that's where we are in the game. I'm Wade Starr.
I'm Nook. I'm playing Saltiness.
This is Lucid playing Mictlan.
And I'm Des Tactic playing Man.
All right, and of course I'm playing Midgard, and we should be joined by Sequani, who's playing Utgard, and Sabouts will be hopefully coming in later, and he is playing the nation of, what are they called again? Pythium.
Pythium, yep.
Yep. All right, so this is kind of an impromptu thing we talked about the last time we did our podcast, and we sort of organized it a bit haphazard, but we managed to come together to do another recap at turn 30. And so we prepared a few questions. Some of these are edited, and some of them are coming from viewers. So I'll go ahead and do the first one, and then let's just keep our same order as what we did last time. So, we'll figure it out. We'll do it live, right? Live to be recorded later on YouTube. So the first question, this was one that came to Nookram, and also I think a lot of us have had it as well. So Joe Generic said, is there anything you would have done differently while making this game? And my version of that question is, if you could redo or undo one move from the first half of the game, what would it be without spoiling anything going on now? So do you want to start us off again, Nookram?
Sure. What would I redo? Maybe a little less aggressive at the start. I kind of went a little less diplomatic the first few turns. Well, once I started meeting folks, then I realized how important diplomacy was and how I shouldn't be getting on any sort of bad sides of the coalition. And
so why are you in my lake then, Nookram?
The lake clearly belongs to me. Hosed by we saw it at the beginning of the game and we thought, what, that's ours. And
hey, we were best of friends, and then suddenly you're in the lake.
Are you saying we're not best of friends anymore?
Well, not best of friends anymore. Friends, but
okay.
Friends with a bit of tension there.
Just think
he's my ally. What's going on?
We're best buds. I'm everyone's ally, except for
We're Sabouts.
Yeah,
sorry, continue.
Other than that, yeah, I'm good with how everything's going so far. But yeah, maybe a little less impulsive at the beginning.
All right,
Yep.
You're up, Lucid. Oh, are you there, Lucid? Hang on a sec. Did he cut out?
No, he's still there in Discord.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, shall I?
Go ahead and go. Go ahead and go next. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I would change a lot, actually. It's one of those sort of things where I think when you get to this stage of the game, you realise all the mistakes that you have made, and with probably the wrong pretender, the wrong mix of the different sorts of magic. So I probably would have changed that a little bit as well. Diplomacy, I think, has been good for me. I've been happy with that.
I've been unhappy with it.
But I think I think I would have tried a different pretender, and I probably should have tried a different pretender and just a different setup. And that sort of it's bitten me a little bit. I just don't have the power. But it's sort of funny. Like when I've been recording, I've been seeing what a lot of you guys have been doing with your builds, and it's just blowing my mind. Just thinking, wow, that is so strong. So there's been a lot of intimidation on my side of the fence, I've got to say, when I see what you guys have been up to. I did a series actually when I started to see the early builds of different players of how I could try to counter them, and I really had not a lot that I could do in that early game. It was really interesting. I mean, I loved it because it was so fascinating, but from a learning experience. But it was really made me realise that a lot of you guys are in a completely different class than I am.
Oh, hang on, we got Sequani just joined, and Lucid, are you back?
Yeah, my the mailman's coming by, so he's barking at the door.
Oh, okay, so that was your dog I heard. I thought it was Gaz's dog. Okay.
Nah, my dogs don't have a deep bark like that.
Yeah, mine's
All
a
right.
wolf. He gets pretty
Let me just
agitated.
do an audio check. Can you guys hear this?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You sound like a robot, but that's fine.
Are you a robot?
No, I am not a robot. This has been a crazy day. I'm in the middle of a move, and I am right now connected on Discord in my car over like some combination of Bluetooth and 5G and whatever. So this is the best I could do at the moment.
Cool. Well, we'll let me catch you up to speed. What's going on? We just asked a question. If you could redo or undo any one move from the first half of the game, what would it be? So for you, Sequani, I guess that would be having taken over sooner. But
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously I wasn't there during the first half, right? So not much to take back, but I guess I'm honestly fairly happy with the situation that I have.
that you
And-
inherited, yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine, and I think I would have done the Pretender design, slightly differently, but overall, I'm actually quite, it's quite workable. So yeah, I guess I would have maybe would have done the build slightly differently. That would be the difference.
All right, Lucid, go ahead.
I
Same
probably would
question.
have been less trusting. I think when I did my announcement video, people were like, "Don't trust anybody," and I was like, "Yeah. I never trust anybody in Dominions." No, I wish I was less trusting. I think that's about it.
Less trusting. I was true to my word.
Yeah. We're very duplicitous. I especially have a bad reputation.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know. I didn't do anything. Well, this question's very easy for me, and I think it can be summed up in 2 words: Witchgrove, don't go.
Let's face it. Actually, you didn't even need it, did you? Really?
No, it's such a
You
big.
didn't even need it.
No, it was such a pointless. I won't spoil anything, but yeah, no, it was just like looking back, it's like, why did I come here? But I mean, I know why, but I shouldn't have.
Particularly with what you knew as well.
I'm sorry.
Particularly with what you actually knew at that stage of the game too.
No, it was totally pointless move. Worst decision I ever made. So, I mean, that's how I came up with this question. I was like, what's the biggest thing that's been on my mind this entire first half of the game? It's like, why did I go there? I mean, like I said, just shouldn't have gone. Well,
See, I would say that Battle Moose's move at that stage was brilliant. Like that was like just simply because of it had to be done, and there was alliances and all sorts of things going on, but he had to do it, and it was. I wasn't expecting him to do it, but I wish he was here because I thought that was a brilliant move.
it was in its way. It wasn't its way, but yeah.
Well, that shook the whole game up. That move, your move and his move, shook the whole game up. Changed everything.
That's the thing is like it shouldn't have been like I didn't even intend it to be like a meaningful move, and yeah, it was crazy. Like I can see why he did what he did, but yeah, it was bad, and I think I hope he's regretting it too. I hope he says the same thing. Going to Witchgrove was my mistake. I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to manifest that.
It had to be done. It had to be done.
I don't think so. Not.
You probably
kind of
forced
yes.
his hand when you went there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's like like I said, should all the meta stuff we can argue about, but yeah, unquestionably that was a bad move on my part.
And I know what was going on in his head because he was he was communicating with me, and he let me know, and he I shouldn't say, but he thought you were going for the win.
Yeah, and see that's the thing is like, yeah, I won't spoil it. But we'll have to come back. We'll revisit
it's
this.
It's funny you mention that though, because that is the move that I didn't pick up, and when it was happening, I knew a war broke out, but I didn't understand the cause and effect of why it broke out. And one of my viewers actually explained it to me when that turn came up in the episode. and I should have been able to see it. You know, like the provinces was changing hands, and if I was paying attention, I would have noticed. But I had no idea why that started or how it started.
Ah, yeah. It was just me trying to be too clever.
I feel like this is a lot like how I unintentionally role-played taking over for Utgard, but it's sort of like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and it kind of doesn't matter. Like, from my point of view, I just come here, oh, it looks like there are a bunch of people fighting. Yeah, there's just like a normal Dominions game, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much more, like, the story's so interesting, but it kind of doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, this is the situation now, and that's what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because we're sort of talking about it, like at that stage, I really thought that we'd wrapped Lucid up at that stage until that move. So it really, because I saw Lucid's build very, very early on, and I was just thinking, oh my god. And then when you went there, and then it was suddenly you were the big threat at that stage. It was as you say, probably a big mistake because you didn't need to take it.
No. Yeah, it was. I mean, I was trying to. I'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the post game, in the after.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got so many things to say about it, and I'm sure I'll have more things to say after we finish the game. So, all right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question.
Has everyone mentioned what they changed? Lucid, did you change anything?
Yeah, the trusting.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Just, I mean, I already have a pretty low level of baseline Dominion's trust. I expect a degree of backstabbing. But yeah, my eyes have been opened.
we brought a whole new level to the game.
That's right.
If it's of any consolation, the comments in my videos were you can trust. There you go.
Yeah, for whatever good that does me.
Well, it actually, not that it did much, but it did change a strategy that I was doing based on the comments.
Okay.
About your level of trust. So anyway, it's for what it's worth.
Okay, well, my reputation precedes me.
I knew I should never have trusted Battle Moose, but I knew it.
Yeah, do not trust
somebody told me, "Oh, you can trust him. Don't worry." But
well, he hasn't done anything to me.
All right. Well, here's our next question. So as YouTubers, how do you choose what to play next or what to play on your channel? So yeah, some of these questions are not going to be specific to our Dominions game, but I think that's okay.
Who's going first?
Oh, go ahead, Nukrim.
Oh, okay. This is kind of a big question for me, but I don't know how to sum it up easily. I play a lot of different things every day. I play something different, and that's kind of what my channel is all about, is trying to find niche, unique things. And how do I choose what to play next? I basically sit down the night before and just pick something. I don't really plan it out at all, but whatever I feel like playing for that day.
Well, I have a follow-up for that for you specifically, which is because you sort of prefaced what the question, but this is kind of different for you for your channel, isn't it? Playing this very long series on Dominions.
Right. Yeah, so I don't do a lot of strategy games. I mean, I do, but maybe 1 or 2 episodes. I don't usually do a lot of long-term things.
Well, we hope you're not regretting it. It's been great having you involved in it.
Certainly not. What's this, like month number 4 on this? Yeah, so it's been a long one. But yeah, it's great. I'm enjoying it. Plus, it's fine.
Oh, go ahead, and Sequani, why don't you go next?
Yeah. So I've actually, I only started my channel fairly recently, and for me, it's just I enjoy so much listening to Let's Plays of other people, and I sort of got into Dominions actually by it was Lucid, actually. It was your channel mostly, and others too, that really got me into the game. I started, though, what interests me, what I really like is sort of older games that are either, sometimes they're flawed in some way, but I still find they're kind of hidden gems, right? An old game that has some really great part to it, but nobody ended up playing it because whatever, it was super buggy or something like that. And one of the games that I played, I think it's the only other game that I have Let's Plays of, was Sword of the Stars and and its sequel, which I thought was an amazing game, but nobody played it. And I just kind of wanted to share that with other people in case, because if you want to pick up that game, then you have no idea what's going on. Now with Dominions, of course, there's a lot of content out there, but I still feel it's a game that, so many more people could enjoy. And and actually that's another reason why, in terms of when I'm choosing what to do for Dominions, I always pick, I don't want to pick the strong nation, right? I don't want to be Airmore or whatever, like LA Ulm or something like that. No offense to, I know Lucid, you've got some series going on and those are great for other reasons, but I love playing the MA man, right? Or that nation that's let's see what we can make out of this, out of this situation. So that's the point of view that I like to bring, is to sort of bring something that's really not perfect and just kind of see what you can do with it. Now this game, of course, Utgard, I can't complain, right? It's a very strong nation, but still, that's what I generally try to bring is, okay, what can we do with this crappy situation?
Yeah, I had no idea how strong Utgard was until this game.
Well, hopefully I can live up to those expectations.
Go ahead, Lucid.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about it. I think I want to do... So far, I've just done Conquest of Elysium and Dominions, which are both Illwinter games. And I was thinking about what I want to do next. The problem I kind of have that I'm trying to sort through right now is strategy games are the games I kind of like, but they tend to be really slow and not always fun to watch. And the way I'm kind of able to get around it with Dominions is because the multiplayer itself is intrinsically really interesting. And then by recording after I've played the turn, I get rid of all the slow parts. But I'm not sure what I want to do next. So I'm trying to figure out what would be a strategy game that maybe has a fair number of people that play it, and then figure out some way to make it actually fun to watch that I also enjoy playing. So,
do your viewers ever give you recommendations?
No, I haven't really asked. I mean, everybody kind of just knows I'm a Dominions only channel, but I was kind of thinking to myself, what am I going to do next? So I'm sure some people will reply when I put this up, but.
Cool. Go ahead, Daz.
Yeah, look, for me, it's pretty much just purely on enjoyment. I don't play games that I don't enjoy. And so if a developer sort of is offering me a game to test and have a look at, I'll only play it and only do an actual video of it if I like it. So I've got a lot of games that I just don't play. So that's sort of the first little rule that I made for myself when I started doing this, was just so that I never did it for purely as a business. I wanted to still keep it as a hobby and as enjoyment. So I get bored with games very quickly as well. So I've got a very short attention span. So I tend to like playing lots of different games. So I do enjoy coming across new games. In fact, there's one game that I saw that Nookrium also put a video up for it called Deity Empires. And that's an awesome game. If you're looking for a game that's just come out, it's going to be a really surprisingly good game. Yeah, that's amazing. It's just those sort of games. When I come across those, I can't wait to do the next series of that one already. Because I've learned a lot from the first series. So a lot of the games, if I'm feeling wide awake, basically I like to play new games. If I'm not feeling wide awake, I like to play Age of Wonders or Warlock or one of those sort of games, just for the old favourites. So that's pretty much how I do it. But I do like trying different games, purely because I enjoy watching the different game mechanics. Yeah, so and I do get recommendations. Deity Empires is one that one of my subscribers recommended to me. So it was good, but that's a real sleeper, that game.
Huh. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out, because I've told you before, I've often watched your channel to find new games, especially in the past. That's how I found Dominions, for example.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, for me, same thing. I think for my channel, I have to just play something that I enjoy. So I don't think my tastes are too eclectic, but some of the stuff I put up maybe seems a little eclectic. I don't know. But one difference though between you and I is because your going the route like Nucrium is, like you're going to try to make this a full-time thing if possible, right?
That's right. Yeah, as much now by just because my actual other work is drying up quite a bit, so I sort of need to try to make this more viable, and so it's sort of becoming, which is a real struggle for me because I'm thinking I don't want it to become a business. I'm really trying hard for it not, because I know that as soon as I make it a business, it's going to be a something where I've got pressure and stress and stuff like that with it, and I don't want that because I think that it's better. You get better content when you just are having fun.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Lucid were talking about this a little bit too, because Lucid's currently covering a lot of Dominions, but he's going to probably do some other stuff too, and talking about other channels that, get kind of exclusive into like some of the bigger games. But yeah, anyway, any of you guys have some follow-up thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, actually, something just occurred to me because, listening to you guys, I know, you guys have, some of you guys are running, your channels are a major operation. And one of the things that's important for me is absolute minimal time investment, right? So the game, because for me, it's just, I barely have time to play the games, much less record the turns, right? So for me, one criteria is I have to just be able to like open OBS and record it in one go, no editing, nothing, just record, upload. So the kind of game and the kind of gameplay has to lend itself to that. So doing like a turn-based strategy game, that works. You can do one turn at a time. Dominions works if you do the turn ahead of time and then you just go over the strategy. But it can be tricky. Like I tried doing a series on, I was playing an old MMO that I used to play a lot in the time called Anarchy Online, which I love, and it's a fantastic game, kind of old school. But after a while, an MMO, it's hard to make it an entertaining episode out of that unless you're doing a lot of editing, because inevitably there's a lot of grinding, and that's just the nature of the game. So to me, it has to be a game that I can record in one shot, no editing, so no pauses, right? You just have to be able to talk for 20 minutes and that's it, because I don't have time for that. And that's completely different. Too. Yeah, it's completely different from what some like Daz, you put so much effort into your videos, right? And it's amazing. It's such a beautiful finished product.
You got that completely wrong. I do listen to Minions videos, but every other video is exactly what you're describing. I've actually got like a workflow that's very, very streamlined. So I record, everything else is then automated. So it's just record the whole thing, and then it automate everything else from that point.
Well, to tag on to this discussion, and Nucrium and Daz in particular, you like a game like Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld. We were talking about this before we started today too, me and Lucid. Like those are the kind of games that lend themselves to like editing to make the content actually be good. Whereas I'm more like Sequani, where one thing I was talking to Lucid about, and what I would share with anybody who's watching, is if you want to do recording easily, I highly recommend getting a GeForce card, because the GeForce experience is what's made recording possible for me when I've been busy, is because I can just record, everything's done, and I can upload. But then like games like Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld are those kind of games where like there is a lot of stuff if you want to make a good video, you kind of do cut it out. And I know Daz and Nucrium, coming back to you, that you guys cover those games. So, and Daz, I know you've edited your Dwarf Fortress videos. So
no, I don't edit them. They're just straight recordings.
Really?
Yeah. The tutorial one I did, I made sure that I went to the, I tried to sort of just only show a specific area, but every other one that I do, I just sit down and just record for half an hour, finish, record the next one for half an hour, and just keep on doing it that way.
Maybe those are the ones maybe those are the ones I'm thinking of. But Nucrium, how about you?
For Dwarf Fortress and RimWorld, I just live stream those. I don't do any Let's Play styles with those anymore.
Oh, really?
And when I did before, I didn't edit either. I don't. I hate editing, so I typically I do the 25 minutes and then done. Every once in a while, I'll edit something. If it's like a really slow game, then I'll begrudgingly edit it. But most of the time, I don't edit.
Yeah, it might be a really cool piece of software.
Trying to keep it as enjoyable as possible, and editing does not lend itself to that.
Exactly right.
If they had recording software and it kept your voice and the game on separate tracks, and then it did like a 10-second window before and after every time you talk, and it does automatic clipping on the video.
Well, the first bit of it, you can do that with Bandicam.
Huh.
You can actually split the. I don't bother, but you can do it with Bandicam.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Dominions videos I edit though.
Yeah, I edit mine as well.
I don't edit those. I just the preparation before I start recording is hours.
Oh, just playing the turn, right?
Yeah, like it's just getting ready for it. Like it's in the previous series, it was horrific. Like it took me the whole day to do an episode and just recording it and or just getting ready to record. And I'd still just sit down and record it, which is what I do with this one. This one doesn't take anywhere near as long, but it's still a long process.
Well, I think I have another question here that might be related to that, but we can come back to it too. Let me go ahead and get to a Dominions question. So this is one that came from Lucid. Do you use Battlefield Magic with gems very much? And do you think they are worth it?
Hang on, can I just jump in here?
Oh,
is
go
this
ahead.
from Lucid or is from somebody asking through Lucid? Because if you're going to be fighting against Lucid, he's going to be taking...
No, this is from one of my viewers.
Yeah, no, I'm only joking.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Why don't you start out, Lucid?
Yeah. No, somebody in Discord asked me to ask that to you guys. What do y'all think about Battlefield Magic that costs gems? Do you generally use it or not? For me, I use it a lot. I think it's... If you have a spell that you can cast with gems in battle and it would be sort of useful, it's usually the best way to spend that gem compared to any other use. But I wasn't like that when I first started playing Dominions. When I first started playing Dominions, I was like, oh, I need to avoid these because they use gems and they're expensive.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. I think the answer to the do you think they are worth it is gotta be yes. But
Yeah.
I know I'll say for single player, no, because I'm lazy when I play single player and I don't want to have to think about it. But go ahead, Sequani.
Yeah, I was just going to say also, I'll get my wording because I'm about to go into a tunnel and then I'll lose reception. But but yeah, actually what Lucid said is exactly right. I remember when I started, I was looking for ways to avoid having to use those spells because it seemed like icky to spend gems. And also it was a lot of trouble to manage, the gems and, all the logistics of that. But if you're playing, against the AI at a normal level, then you don't really need to do that. But it's just the game is designed with the assumption that you're going to be using those spells, and it's not just a bonus; they're absolutely necessary. Now, I guess there are some nations that maybe just because of the paths that they have, don't rely on them as much, but they are by far, with the exception of some evocation stuff, pretty much every useful spell in the game requires gems, right? And they're often like a beeline for what you want, right? So you're either, you're making a beeline for mass protection or mass regeneration or whatever it is, like rigor mortis or relief. Like all of those are gem requiring spells. And they're really a core part of most mid-game play in Dominions 5. So if you're a new player to Dominions, you just got to get used to the idea that you got to use those spells.
Yeah. How about you, Nukrim? You're new to this kind of, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty new. If I had lots of extra gems to use in combat, I would, but I always end up spending them elsewhere.
Well, what have you been spending them on typically? Or is that a spoiler?
It's a trade secret.
It's a bit spoilery. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It wouldn't have anything to do with undead.
No, nothing at all to do with undead.
Just studying quietly in his laboratory.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah, using them to make jewelry. Go ahead, Daz.
Fortress for me.
Yeah.
I very rarely use them, and I think it's like what you guys have sort of said. I think I'm still at that stage of the game where I'm still in that noobish sort of stage where I don't think of it much, and so I don't equip it. I've been watching the battles that you guys have been fighting, and I've been sort of interested to sort of see the number of gems that you guys have been carrying around, because it's not something that I do. And I also don't want to lose them. I always assume that I'm going to lose every battle, so I tend not to equip them. I know that I should be putting them on scouts and having them sort of just coming along and hiding with the army, but I just don't do it. And it's something I should do. I probably will now start to look at that again a bit more closely, but it's just something that just doesn't happen naturally for me.
Man, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about putting gems on my scouts. Thanks, Daz.
Seriously?
Yeah. That's great. That's a great idea.
Midgard 2.0 coming out.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Watch out! After this point in the game, his nation suddenly skyrockets and becomes way more effective.
Yeah. What do you mean more effective?
Daz, do you have any other secrets you want to share with your enemy?
Yeah, just speak English when you do your diplomacy.
It is English. It all made perfect sense when I had it in my head.
Yeah, that's why everyone started, that's why everything was so confusing. Which drove.
Yeah, anyway, to the question of gems, like I said, in single player, I was always found it kind of a pain. But now I look at the spells I want to cast, and it's always like, wait, this requires air 3, and I only have air 2. So the only way I'm going to get this cast is using gems anyway. And now I kind of just now I'll kind of overstock gems and just be like, let's just give this mage a whole bunch of gems and see what the AI does with it. So learning from the AI isn't something I would recommend, but after you do your 5 scripted turns, it's kind of all there is left is trusting the AI, and I try to help it out by giving it gems and hope that my mages won't fatigue out. That's my main thing for gems, is using gems to keep my magic users from fatiguing out in the middle of battle.
That's a good idea.
One thought which may help you. If some of you don't know it, then this will be helpful. But when you're trying to cast a spell, like let's say the spell requires air 3 and you only have air 2, and the spell is air 3 and it takes 1 gem. If you use 2 gems instead of 1, so if you put 2 gems on that air 2 commander, he can cast an air 3 spell. Did you guys know that?
Yep. Each level of magic you have, you can up to double it with gems. Is that right?
Yeah. You can only go up 1 effective level. So if you're 2, you can go to 3, but by spending an extra gem. But you can only put the number of gems in a spell that you have magic paths. So if the spell is air 3 and costs 3 air gems, then you can't put 4 air gems in it and go from air 2 to air 3.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. That makes.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I'd misunderstood that from the manual then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't. I thought it was just like I had it wrong. But yeah, that clarifies it. So that's good to know. So we're not going to be casting.
Don't use that when you're fighting me though. So
no, never did.
Battleness isn't here, so we're okay. He's not going to know.
So I think this is kind of touching on what we were speaking about a little bit before. How are you with your Dominion's turns? Stress, obsess, procrastinate, or fire and forget? And so Sequani, if you're back, why don't we have you start? Go ahead, Nucrium.
How am I with Dominion's turns? I procrastinate, and then I get to where I'm at, like the end of the time I can turn my turn in, and then I just fire and forget. Go to the next one. That's my whole strategy. That way I have no time to think about it. I just do it, and it's over with.
Go ahead, Lucid.
I think I was in more of a stress mode and do it at the last minute until around turn 20. And then I just started doing it as soon as the turn got sent to me. And then I've been forgetting about it, and it's been awesome. because it's not
What
looming.
happened? What happened at turn 20? I'm trying to remember now.
So I think there was a throne province that was taken by a seafaring nation. I can't remember. But
Yeah, there's so many of those seafaring nations, and then Anyway, so go ahead, Daz.
Look, I'm a procrastinator. I think in this instance, because it takes so much work just to prepare for it, and just going over it, I tend to put it off, and then I get the. Oh, actually, one thing I wish that we get a 12-hour warning. I wish it was a 24-hour warning. I don't know if you can change that.
Yeah, I can change that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like a 24-hour warning too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can change that. Don't let me forget when we line. I changed it to 12 because before with our 24-hour turns, just so our viewers know, we're doing this in a different way than we did our last game. And every time we do one of these series, I feel like there's something new about the logistics to learn from. And so like with this one, I've been sending you guys emails approximately 24 hours ahead of time. And then because of the time zone differences and because of work, I changed the regular game reminder to be 12 hours so that you'd get at least a last minute emergency warning whether or not I was at my computer or not. But I can certainly change that to 24 hours. So
yeah, that'd be really handy because quite often a lot of the turns are being done sort of at really inconvenient times for me. So, and when I get the 12-hour warning, I've often got other things I'm in the middle of, and it's like, oh my God, okay, now I'm going to have to find a few hours in between there. And so 24 hours would be great.
So you guys have been ignoring my emails then?
No, because you also send a three-day warning.
Yeah,
and a 1-day warning.
Yeah,
no,
these are the logistics that we need to change for next time. Me and Lucid talked about some of this, and we can talk about it too on camera today as well. Like all the things we might do differently in a next Dominions game or an ideal logistics Dominions game. But
look, don't get me wrong. I think you've done a fantastic job.
No. I don't. There's always different ways to do things, and it's all been like for the sake of learning for me how to handle this best. So. Yeah, anyway, I'll go ahead and answer the question. I think Sequani's back, so I'll see if he can jump in.
Yes, I'm back, and I'm at home at my PC. Hopefully this sounds a lot better.
It does. Okay, so in case you missed it, our question was, how are you with your Dominion turn? Stress, obsess, procrastinate, or fire and forget? So I'll go ahead and answer, and then you come in after me. For me, I try to play the turn, or I try to look at the turn as soon as I get it. So that way, at least I can think about what I'm going to do. And I try to play sort of in a fire and forget type of mentality. So I just go ahead and play out my turn as soon as I get it. And then I'll think about it in the next day or two and realize that's a terrible idea. I need to redo that. Like, what am I thinking trying to do this strategy? That's not going to work. And then I'll go back in and change my turn around and then record it. There's a few times where I don't change very much, and then there are other times where I change it entirely and decide to declare war on somebody I hadn't thought about before. So that's how I've been approaching it. How about you, Sequani?
That's very reassuring. Yeah, actually, I found myself surprisingly like when I'm playing single player or if I'm playing a game that I know I'm not going to make a series with, then I can kind of be very detached. But especially when I'm trying to make a series out of it, I get very emotionally invested in the game.
Ooh, this is foreshadowing.
And but just to mean like in the early game, I'm really eager, so I'll get the turn right away. I'm very excited to play the turn, and like when things are going well, I'm looking forward to the turn and I'll download it, really early, look at it and be planning, and I'm thinking about it. I always hand in the turn. I always submit it like at the last minute just because I'm very busy, but I'll have spent 2 or 3 days, or depending on the turn time, like thinking about it and just planning all the strategies I'm going to do just during the day while I'm driving or whatever. But, when I'm in a rough situation or there's like a big decision that I have to take in the game, I'll procrastinate. The turn will roll over and I won't even look at it until like 3 hours before I have to submit the next one. So I mean, so far in this game, obviously, I've only been playing it a few turns, so I'm eagerly, I'm just going through it normally. But there are definitely a lot of games that I've been playing where it was, and within one game it changes a lot, right? I'm very excited about the game, but then I come to a point where it's just like, oh, this is so nervous. And honestly, like it's almost a relief. For example, I've had a big game recently. I've been playing a bunch of All Nations games, and you get to the late game and there are a few major powers, and things can swing for the best or for the worst very quickly. And in one of those games, like, okay, I just got betrayed by two people, and that's sort of a very stressful moment.
Yeah.
But after a while, like once you know that you've lost, it's kind of like fun again, right? Because
I know what you mean, yeah.
Because then it can just be, all right, well, let's just try to be as annoying as possible while they kill me. And, you don't have the stress of like, oh, I have to, if I don't make the right decisions, I'm not going to win, because you're not going to win anyways, right? So whereas earlier on in the game, it's still, oh, well, if I screw up, then I'm not going to, be able to win, And I mean, not that, winning is everything, but it kind of is. That is the point of the game. But it allows you to just have more fun and be like, all right, well, let's see how creative we can be with these troops or something like that. So it really does. I do end up thinking about it a lot outside of the time that I spend recording. And I guess that's the other thing that I guess this touches back on what we talked about earlier, which is for me, it's funny, the way that I think about the strategy that I'm going to do is, even if I'm not being serious, is I imagine if I was recording a Let's Play, like how would I justify this to an audience, right? And so when I'm thinking at night, oh, in this game, I'm gonna, I'll script these guys to do that, and I'll research this. I've got like a soundtrack of me doing a Let's Play about it, and once that soundtrack kind of coalesces and starts to make sense, then I know what strategy I'm gonna do. I do it, and then I record the Let's Play after. So doing the Let's Play actually helps me do the turns in that way.
I find that with all games, actually, when you do a Let's Play, you're much more cautious and careful about and considered when you're doing it. It's funny. It's a thing I found right from years and years ago when I started doing it. It's a really funny mechanic. Whereas if you're not doing a recording, you tend to rush things. It's quite funny.
It's one of my viewers told me there's a name for it, because I would always go through my turns. Sometimes 20 turns in the future, I would come back and record from 20 turns ago. And I would find all these mistakes I made. Like, why did I do this? Just obvious things. And they're saying that there's a name for it in programming. It's called rubber ducking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is if you put a little rubber duck on your desk and you take your code and you explain it to the rubber duck. And as you do that, you find tons of problems in it. So it's kind of the same thing as making a Let's Play.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's interesting. That literally happened to me the other day, where I was programming and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. And so I got my coworker to come over and try to help me. And so I went through and was explaining the problem and then solved it.
Yeah. I find it as soon as I write a Stack Overflow like question, as soon as you send it off, you think, oh, of course it's that.
Yeah. I've submitted my own answers to Stack Overflow many times.
Yeah. Then you got to wait an hour or so before you can submit your answer. I think it is, because it's so often you write it, and as soon as you send it, you think, oh, damn it, it's right there, and then you got to wait a certain amount of time before you can actually answer it. Yeah. Anyway.
I'd never heard it called rubber ducking before. That's interesting.
No.
And here was the foreshadowing. So this is from me. One of my viewers mentioned how it seems irrational to get salty in a game that is based on backstabbing, duplicity, and zero-sum warfare. So why do you think this game gets under people's skin, and has it gotten under yours? So Daz, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, look, it's touched me a bit. When was it? I forget exactly what it was. I didn't get salty, but I did say in my recording that I did, and I actually wasn't, but I did sort of say it was something. It's something that. Something didn't go according to plan. I forget what it was, but it's,
I know what it was. I know what it was, because my viewer, I think, told me the same thing. They told me that you said you had a flu, and I went in and attacked the province that you had some undead take over, and I had an accident with your army.
Oh yes, yeah. I don't know if that was when I said it though, because I found that quite funny, to be honest. When you did do that, it was sort of one of those things. I thought, oh, what the hell are you doing? You know, we had a very nice arrangement. I'd given you a level 2 throne and all sorts of things, and I thought, okay, well, he'll be nice. He'll be set for the game. I don't have to worry about that area. And then suddenly you're right there helping me out.
Exactly. I was helping you out,
and then destroyed one of my armies in the process. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, actually, maybe that was the one. I can't remember, but yeah, like from my side, the reason that it does get under your skin is because you are so invested in it. It takes so much concentration, and it's one of these. Like the first time I ever played my first multiplayer game. I haven't played that many multiplayer games, but my first one. You're losing sleep over it. Like, and this isn't well before I was recording it. Like, you're actually thinking, you're obsessing about it and thinking about it all the time. Like, what if they do this, and how am I going to move there, and things like that. And it's just, I can't think of another game where I've actually been so invested in what was going on. And that's why when. Like with Series 1, you know, when Wadestar, you contacted me and said, do you want to be part of it? I thought, yeah, this is something that is sort of, it's a special game in this regard. There's no other game like it with the multiplayer where it just does your head in.
Well, that was an interesting turn of phrase you used too, losing sleep over anything. So that's something else, if you guys have lost sleep or not, like you can speak to. Lucid, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, in particular, Lucid, you were talking in your Scalaria game. You've also had that happen with one of your players in that particular game too. So I know you've spoken on
other people
topic.
Get salty. I tend to not. I think I got more. I don't know. I've been salty a little bit. I tend to get more upset if other people are really upset. Like if other people are really upset and kind of losing their head, I'm like, dude, you're ruining my game experience. Just chill out.
I think if people do it and it's a negative thing, but like for example, like in one Wadestar and I had a bit of a thing where there was a real big payback that Wadestar got against me at that stage, and that was actually and that saltiness between both of us was actually really, really positive. But I know what you mean. If somebody is really a bad sport, that's the absolute worst.
Right. But aside from that, I think but you're right, Des. There's so much you invest in the game. It's in some ways it's kind of like a roguelike because there's no saving and loading, there's no save scumming. Everything you do is final. And it's also like an MMO in the sense that, you know, in an MMO you build your character over the course of months. Well, in this you build your nation over the course of months. So it's kind of like a roguelike MMO where you've got this very long character arc where it can all go to hell in 1 or 2 turns. And that provides just, a huge rush. When things go well, you're really excited. I had one battle that ended up going well, and I kind of thought it was going to go well, but God, when it finally did, it was awesome. I was like, yes! You know, like, I told my girlfriend about it. She was looking at me like, really? You're going to talk to me about this?
Oh, that's foreshadowing another question.
That's funny. It's funny. I won't talk about that then in that case. If there's another question coming.
Go ahead, Nuclear.
I think everything's pretty much been said by Lucid and Daz, but it hasn't gotten under my skin. I mean, I play games to have fun, and so I just enjoy it if I get stabbed in the back, like happens, and I just take it. That's how the game plays. You're
a real professional, though.
You got that itch only a dagger can scratch.
I'd be curious to hear in terms of the multiplayer, I guess maybe from Lucid, but the others who've played more multiplayer Dominions. Some people, so in the Dominion 5 community, there are some multiplayer players who are, like when you play a lot, you have a reputation. And so I know that of many of the players, I know if I make a nap 3 with this person, it will be, they will hold up their end of the bargain. even though in all games it's always like Machiavellian diplomacy, there's no rule that stops anybody from breaking, like a nap 3 whenever they want. A lot of players make it a point to say, I will never violate, the diplomatic agreements that I make. And that buys them currency for like future games. And then there are also some players that I know, but they also advertise, like they say, don't trust anything I say. They don't say that, but I know there's actually one guy who was playing with, who's like, I don't do any non-aggression pacts, like never. And so that's a player you can't trust. But so, to me, if I know that all these games are played with sort of Machiavellian diplomacy, right? You can break your word anytime you want. Because I'm interested in playing a lot of games with a lot of people, I do expect that people will hold their word. But, if you do get betrayed, yeah, that stings, that sucks. And, that does it can sometimes hurt, but sometimes, but those are the rules and that can happen. But I guess there's some kinds of behaviors that do make me feel saltier. So, for example, there was, this is a game that I've been recording a lot of episodes, and it just kind of wrapped up, basically. It was a very long All Nations game. One of my neighbors, who was, we had a very tense relationship for the whole game. And in the late game, he got a sub. And that sub, and so I diploed, the guy as soon as he came in, and I was like, all right, so I had a nap 3 with the previous guy, and based on what he answered, it seemed pretty clear to me that he was intending to uphold, whatever diplomacy I had with the previous player. And then a few turns later, him and another one of my neighbors, decide to attack me, but not like, okay, we'll attack you in 3 turns. They just violate the nap. They just suddenly out of the blue attack me. So I wasn't salty about the other guy who he just broke, his word. We had an nap 3, he just broke it and attacked me. I mean, that happens in Dominions. But I was more salty about the guy who joined the game as a sub and then implies in writing that he's going to keep the diplomacy and then breaks it. To me, that's dude, I've been, playing this game for months, and then you just come and are kind of ruining the fun. So I kind of genuinely felt salty about that situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, I can understand it, because that's almost like when you came in as emails where we were ourselves talking to each other about certain things. We were sharing information, but then in game, it's a completely different persona. And so what you're describing there is you had a personal conversation with an actual person about the game, and then in game, it was the opposite.
Well, I would say, my impression is that these YouTuber kind of series, or if I look at the previous one that you guys had done, and even this one, there is more of a role-playing aspect to it. But in my experience, in most multiplayer Dominions 5, there's no role-playing. You're playing against the player. It's the person directly. So if I'm talking to somebody on Discord, I don't expect them to what they say on Discord is as good as what they would say to me in game. I don't expect there to be a difference. But so for me, we're not doing diplomacy outside of game for this particular game. But in the short interactions I had by email just to catch up with everybody, that's why when I joined, I said, hey, tell me if you've made some Diplo deal with Utgard, like a nap or something like that, because I will, I'll uphold that, because, I feel I'm coming into the game. My job is not to screw everyone over. So that was a situation where I felt salty. But in general, I feel just more salty if the thing that gets me the most is when, you forgot to patrol with, the one commander who had, the 100 dudes. And then you're going to break free of your castle, and then it's just a bunch of mages with no support. Yeah. And it's your whole game has just, you could have won, and now you're losing for sure. Right? It's just an epic failure because of one tiny little mistake, right? Or you forgot one gem, and so he wasn't able to cast the key spell. Yeah, that's what really gets me. And that's just no fault but your own, right? And it feels so bad. Feels bad.
It's like if you've got some sort of Viking character that's shooting those arrows, those astral arrows at you, and it hits one of your commanders just as you're marching off somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
That's literally
That's a very
fire and
specific
forget.
complaint.
That was literally fire and forget. Pray and spray.
What does this button do?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, all the buttons shoot. You said a lot of things there, Sequani, that I wanted to kind of follow up on too. Like, I think I'm one of those players that I don't like naps, like the non-aggression packs, just because it's I feel like it's a little bit more pure to just deal with not having to, like, my problem with the non-aggression packs I've had before is sometimes you think you're following the letter, but the other person doesn't think you're following the letter, and then like neither of you think you're doing the wrong thing, but then both of you think that one person is being totally unreasonable about it. Like, oh wait, I thought one more turn. You attacked me one turn too earlier, stuff like that, and I don't want to have to count turns. And this is something that's kind of more a complaint about the Dominion's UI. It's kind of hard to tell when a turn is and stuff, but in our previous game, I wish Marcus was here too to talk about like that kind of reputational aspect of diplomacy, because in our previous game too, I wanted to make it a point to people not to have anybody get mad if somebody broke their word, because like I do think that's really important to the game. There was one turn though I did lose sleep, like going back to what Daz said, and I think it was because of Utgard, something Utgard did, and I'm not being coy. I'm pretty sure it was you, Sequani. Something in our diplomacy was like making me lose sleep. So that happened to me too, and then finally, I think one of the reasons why this game, it's just a game, so it's like, why does it get under your skin? But I think it's because inherently there's a lot of ego involved in it. Even when it is just a game, it's like, I mean, we all want to think that like, oh yeah, that guy, I could beat that guy. But then like you play the game and it's like suddenly you're not beating this guy, and you kind of have to reevaluate how smart you think you are. It's like, I thought I was a smart person. I thought I was good at strategy games, and now I'm losing one. And it's kind of like, you have to just, that can get under your skin. It's like, I'm not as awesome as I thought I was. It's like in my single player games, like I'm always awesome. So
yeah, I just to answer what you just said. That's, to be completely honest, that's also one of the reasons why I love picking shitty nations.
Yeah.
And if I lose, I won't blame it on the team.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. Like, to me, it is. I find it more enjoyable to start from a bad position and see what good I can make of it.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of game setup is more enjoyable than to start with a strong position and try to win. Right? So
yeah,
that's kind of like, that's why I play on hard, in any game, right? I always play on the hardest difficulty. To me, it's more fun to pick the shittiest nation and see, all right, let's see if we can beat, whatever OP nation that you're playing against, right? To me, that's a more fun challenge than to pick the OP nation and see if you can steamroll everybody with your whatever quickness, sacred, or whatever, right? But
yeah,
they're both enjoyable in some ways, but to me, I get more pleasure out of, being the underdog and seeing what you can do. And I admit, part of that psychology, part of that is definitely because if you fail, then it's okay. It kind of reduces the stress related to that. So that for sure is how I see it.
And one final thing, and this is probably something you don't know about, and I'll bring it up again for the other guys too, about like our role playing. Like, to me, my desire to role play is partly to provide a buffer to the ego. It's to provide a buffer to getting salty. It's like if I role play, then I can try to provide like a very clear borderline between what I'm saying as a human being and how I want to feel like I can compose myself in real life, versus like how I want to be able to just enjoy a game that is built around me being a terrible person. And that's how I use the role playing. And it's one thing too, when you're talking about like talking to people on Discord, this isn't a question per se that we had, but I really like the way we're doing the the diplomacy right now, where I feel like there's a strong dividing line between stuff that's game related is in the game, and anything I say outside the game has nothing to do with the game, and I don't have to worry about, like, you know, you were talking about that saltiness when you make a deal with somebody in Discord or on chat, and then you feel like they kind of break that word, and it's like, that's how I would feel if I was talking to somebody in Discord. It's kind of like, hey, I want you to do this, or hey, I'm getting some advice. It's like, oh, I'm going to give you advice because I think you're going to use it on another nation, but then it turns out you just used it against me. And it's kind of like, it starts to get into a gray zone where it's not necessarily the other person I want to put it on, but for me, I can start to feel like, yeah, that felt a little dishonest. And because it was done in a non-role-playing voice, like, I just know psychologically I can kind of take that. That's a little bit of a bitter pill for me to swallow. Whereas I like that role-playing element of the game, not because of just role-playing, but because it helps me, like I said, kind of distinguish between game and out of game.
Absolutely, that's 100%. Actually, it's because in real life I'm very honest and so on and so forth. And by role-playing, it allows you to be anything. And whereas if you're giving your word, you're then sort of stuck doing that if it's not role playing. So for me, the role play actually frees up the game.
And I don't know if any of you guys want to add anything more to that, or we can go to a question.
I don't know if this question is planned to be asked by anybody, but for those of us who have played a bunch of multiplayer, or some multiplayer, I'm wondering how you felt about the only in-game diplomacy versus being allowed to do diplomacy out of game on Discord, because it is a completely different game. Like it completely changes the game to be only able to do diplomacy by sending the in-game messages that get there the next turn, and then you hear back the turn after. In my experience, in the 6 turns or whatever that I've played so far in this game, it's like playing a completely different game, honestly.
Yeah, you're playing blindfolded, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's just a completely different way of playing. Like I'm used to working out all the diplomacy sort of instantly. Yeah. Not instantly, but on the same turn, and that informs your decision. And so now you have to you have to make plan for a lot of contingencies, and the communication's a lot harder. So I'm curious how what you guys enjoy, which you enjoy the most.
I've actually liked this one more than the other 2 series that we've played because of once again, there's less time commitment by doing it in game, but it brings back to the Witchgrove again. I like the Battle of Witchgrove, where Battlemoose just had to make a decision on the spur of the moment because he thought that Waitstar was going for the win, and that was like that for me is like it. I'm really looking forward to watching his videos around that time, because that would have been a dilemma. Because of the in-game diplomacy, he didn't get a chance to talk to anybody. He just had to make a decision, and that's going to happen in this game too. Like, if somebody starts to go for the win, all those NAP agreements and things are going to have to go out the window at some point. That's why I sent that global message out to everyone about if anyone takes the tier 3 throne, it's a declaration of war as far as I'm concerned to that province, just so I can get out of any NAP agreements that I have.
Yeah.
And that was the reason for that, just because in one sense, by not being able to, like, you lose 2 turns with everything. And so it's sort of quite strange the way it sort of does work. But I like it. I really am liking it a lot.
Lucid, I know you have some feelings about this.
Yeah, I was salty earlier. It came up in the last group discussion we did. But I'm actually liking it now. The reason I was salty earlier is because I think I wasn't using because you only get a few messages. I mean, and then you have to wait 2 turns. And I wasn't using those messages well. I think I was doing too much kind of Mictlan Jaguar Tribe Warrior speak. But I think just taking full advantage of every message and making sure I'm really clear, I'm not salty anymore about it. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have won a convert because I love it more than I expected to. And to Sequani and anybody else who might not know, part of going to this extreme is in response to the opposite extreme we had in our previous game, where we actually did sort of start to turn into a role playing session with all the emails we were sending back and forth to each other, and it got kind of tense and extremely time consuming. And
Yes.
in the end, not justifiably so, but a bit emotionally exhausting at times. And I look back on it, I'm like, why did I get so exhausted by it? But at the time, I just remember being very exhausted by it. And I know Marcus felt very exhausted by it as well.
I think we all did, actually.
Yeah.
It was an exhausting game. We needed that break after that series. It was just such a grind, emotional grind. It was a good game, but it was just an emotional grind.
Yeah,
I could totally see that because in a YouTuber series, right? Because in most of the other, I've played a few other fairly large multiplayer games, and you do have fairly epic diplomacy going on, but there are a few actors. There's usually one or two players, whoever is a game leader, and it's not always a game leader who's doing a lot of active coalition building and diplomacy, but most players are doing a fairly minimal or average amount of diplomacy, and it doesn't kind of suck up all your time. But I could totally see how if everybody was making Let's Plays on that game, then I can totally see how it could get out of control. Really
you got thousands and thousands of people watching every move you make. And it's sort of one of those things where if you're playing it privately and you're just sending a message to somebody as an email, it's one-on-one. But when you're doing it as a Let's Play, it's you're writing the message, but there's thousands of people that are going to see it.
Absolutely.
Let me add one thing and then get Nucleum in on this. One more thing about doing it this way is it levels the playing field between people who have time to get on Discord and time to write emails versus those of us who don't have as much time. It would be hard for me to coordinate as much as say somebody who is in college, which I was not so long ago. That was the thing with our previous season too, is I had time to write all those emails, and now it's a little bit harder, and I like having the in-game diplomacy because it's I know that I'm not going to be out-talked by someone who has time to really grease the wheels of everybody else when I literally have to be at work and I can't send emails very easily. So,
that's a great point.
And then, Nucleum, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, I like the diplomacy system that we have this way. It's just frustrating enough to make it fun.
That's another thing I feel too. And it does make throne rushing a much more dangerous and viable tactic.
Yes, yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Can I ask a question actually about that? Because I didn't, because I wasn't here at the beginning of the game. But whose idea was it to have 7-point victory with 18 thrones?
That I think originally came from Battle Moose, and we kind of settled in on it. Originally, 50% threshold, and then I remember it was specifically Battle Moose suggested having it lower so that there was still a danger of somebody winning the game before 40 turns. Because when I set up.
I thought Lucid actually was the one that suggested we make it easier so that we actually can do it inside that 40 turns.
Is that right, Lucid?
Yeah, I think I probably said that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Balmoose, so it must have been Lucid. Because I had really, when I set up the game, I knew 40 turns was going to be an insanely short game, and so I was like, well, we'll still have the 50% threshold, so we can't just goof off and let somebody run away with the game. But at the same time, it's probably going to come down to turn 40. Because it came down to turn 50 on our previous game, and that game took forever. Anyway.
That level 3 throne, by the way, is one of the hardest thrones in the game. The one on 10? The one that Das said he's going to declare war if anybody takes it.
Oh, we're getting to spoiler territory. I can't say anything.
Yeah. Anyway.
But
where is it? I'm just trying to find it on the map. There it is.
Bottom right.
Yeah.
Talking about Swedjord?
Yeah.
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 But Anyway, let's go ahead to the next question. I'll have Nukrium start us out.
Actually,
what's
can you move your hand, please, Waitstar? Sorry, it's yep, there we go.
literally my hand, huh?
Yeah, your hand. Get rid of that hand. I was trying to slap it a few times, but you kept on leaving it there.
Oh, sorry. So, what's something you've learned from playing this game, whether it's about strategy, diplomacy, or existence itself? And does the strategy and diplomacy in Dominions give any insight into other things, for example, history or military or other games or work, for example?
Well, I haven't learned anything about existence itself. But I used to be a strategy channel when I first started YouTube, and so it's kind of been nice to go back to a strategy game. I don't know about learning anything, but it's just kind of a nice go back to what I did. Like my first year of YouTube was old strategy games, Let's Plays, that kind of a thing. And it's been a while since I played a proper strategy game.
Have you discovered anything new about yourself?
About myself. I like to procrastinate. I didn't learn that, but I've reinforced that.
Go ahead, Lucid.
I probably have two. One is I kind of like reading on history, and for whatever reason, I've been watching World War II, this documentary on Netflix called World War II in Color, and you just see, Hitler moving over and taking different countries and the coalition building and the treaties people make, and because they actually signed non-aggression pacts. It wasn't like the EU or NATO or things. Those didn't exist. There were countries signing non-aggression pacts, and England saying, well, if you attack Poland, we'll attack you. And then they attack Poland, but then England doesn't really attack, and then they finally do. And God, it's so much like a Dominions game with diplomacy. I was sitting there watching that, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is just like Dominions. I guess I'll just say that one thing, but yeah.
Go ahead, Daz.
Yeah, look, as far as actually learning something, I guess not. But I think what Lucid just said there about there are parallels, and it's that's something that I find quite interesting. Actually, one thing I do like with any of the Dominions games is just how diverse the mythology and lore that the game comes from is. And I like looking up and finding out where that lore actually originated from. Like the devs did an amazing job, like with what they did with the game, to not just keep it where the mythology is just, for example, Greek-Roman or Greco-Roman, to actually go all around the world and sort of have these different factions that come from everywhere and still keep a semblance of balance is, I find that just really, really fascinating and really interesting, because most of it is based on something, and it is fascinating, that side for me.
Yeah, I think for me, what things I've learned, and I talked about a little bit with some of my viewers, I think, and it's just like, there's no way to be a good guy and win. And I think it segued with some documentaries I was watching on Netflix, like Wild Country and The Staircase, and it's just like, wow, like people are terrible. and you want to go about your life thinking I'm a good person, and you want to think that I want to think that about myself when I'm playing the game, and it's like, but I know, especially this is maybe coming from our previous game, going back and getting to see other people's point of view of your own actions and being like, oh yeah, I guess from his point of view, yeah, I was being a dick. And like with you, Daz, like with me trying to help you out with your undead problem, those kinds of things. So there is a little bit of a spoiler there, so I won't go into it until after.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Let's just say the trust levels were pretty low at that point.
And then like with the saltiness too, for me, it's like, trying to realizing, like when I watch other people play games, like, because my viewers bring it up too sometimes, saying like, oh, why do you get so worked up about something? And it's like, yeah, why do I? And why isn't when I watch other people, or when I watch reality television, and it's like, I'm mad at you. It's like, I'm mad at you. And it's like, you people are so shallow. How can you, like, why are you mad at each other about something so stupid? And then like I get involved in the game, and I'm like, I'm mad at Daz. You know, it's like,
Hang on, what, mate?
it's like, so, and it's just funny to see like, oh, I'm just like all these other people that like I think I'm better than, but nope, I'm actually very much a human being with all the same faults, and I'm really not as awesome as like I want to go about my life thinking I am. And then, and you know, you see that in, you see that I think about it a lot in terms of the discourse that goes on in America. And you know, the kind of discourse we talk about, you know, online with like Twitter trolls and things like that. And I'm just like, wow, yeah, people are just, I can see how people get this way because sometimes I'm like this. But anyway, that's what I learned from the game. It's just about myself. Go ahead, Squanny. Oh, did we lose Squanny? Oh, there you are.
No, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, actually, to me, the main thing, which kind of touches on what that said, is to me what I've learned, I guess, the most about through this game is the lore, right? I mean, I know it's not exact and it's not an encyclopedic approach to the myths and cultures, you know, from around the world, but it does give just enough of a hint, and it's just really interesting to see what kind of sort of fictional mythology that they've built around all of these different cultures. And I've learned a lot of, you know, there are a lot of cultures that I know a lot about the mythology, and there's a lot of cultures that I don't. And even though it's fake mythology, it's still sort of really interesting to me to see how they've constructed a mythology for, you know, given these different cultural backgrounds. So to me, that's really interesting. And from a strategy point of view, also the game is very unique in that you do have to, like for a strategy game, most strategy games are actually make a point of giving you fairly full control, at RNG notwithstanding, giving you fairly full control over, you know, what you're going to do. But here, you know, you can script 5 turns and then who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, but even then, like, so, but there is a lot to learn about that because it's not who knows. You can't, if you know, you have experience, you know what's going to happen. You know, these mages, if you have these spells researched, they're just going to sit there and buff themselves with useless things, you know? So you learn eventually, oh, you got to do advance and cast spells. Otherwise, you know, they'll just pick their noses in the backlines, right? So, or, you know, oh, they're just going to skeleton spam all day, even though you have better things for them to do. So, you know, you do learn those things, but it is a lot, you know, you kind of have to plan as best you can and then pray, right? And that's a different kind of strategy game, and that requires a different kind of thinking.
Daz, were you going to add something?
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, well, we'll go on to the next question. So for those who were in the previous series, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. How does this compare to the previous one? And pick any aspect for comparison. And for those who've played other multiplayer games of Dominions or similar, same question. So you want to go again, Sequani, and we'll go up the list?
Yeah, so I didn't play in your previous YouTubers. I did play, we had a short Disciples game, which involved, you know, meme-blessed giants. So yeah, that was fun. And not only meme-blessed giants, Lucid, you were in that too. So it was meme-blessed giants and also meme-blessed Mictlan, I think, right?
That was Nazca, so it was
Nazca,
and flying ghosts. It was horrible.
Yeah.
So
I watched that one.
So that one wasn't as enjoyable, but just because it was like some people decided it was going to be memes and other people decided it was going to be a normal game. So, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
But if I compare this game to others, actually, despite the fact that the diplomacy is very different because it's only in-game diplomacy, I mean, I've only been in the game for like 6 or 7 turns or however many turns it's been. It actually feels like a very normal game. The game settings are different than the games I usually play. Most of the games I've played have been much sort of longer games, either all nations games or just with many more players, more thrones. And this is like a blitz game almost. I mean, you know, Cataclysm is set super early, 7 points to win. So the feel strategically of the game is different. But actually, it's surprisingly like I'm approaching it and I'm realizing, oh, this is exactly how I approach any of my other games. So actually, it doesn't seem to be that different from the other games that I've played so far. Except probably the nation that I have is much stronger than the nations that I usually play. So there's that.
Go ahead, Nucleum.
This is my first Dominions multiplayer game, and I wasn't in the last one, so I don't really have any comparison other than single player, which is it's a lot different than single player.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree. I keep going back to single player as like my security blanket. Things go bad in the multiplayer game. I'm like, I need to go ruffle stomp the bot for a while. Go ahead, Lucid. Oh, go ahead, Nucleum.
No, that's all I have to add.
Lucid.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to a lot of other games. I mean, I think one of the things when you play Dominions games online with random people is sometimes you have a big disparity in terms of skill level, and a lot of times that'll come out in terms of early expansion. And so like one person will have 5 provinces. So then everybody who's near them get, 20. And then one of those people who's near them, because they have, 20 provinces, they're going to eat the 5 province dude. But, I mean, this game has been pretty balanced in terms of, people had relatively even expansions. Nobody's gotten eaten yet completely. So in my book, it qualifies as a really good game so far.
Well, I've been trying really hard to eat one particular nation, but it hasn't been working.
Not enough seeking arrows.
It's not. It's not that nation. But
no, I didn't think it was. I was thinking, no, that's not me. It can't be me, even though you're all through my provinces at the moment.
Go ahead, Daz.
Yeah, look, I'm finding I'm really liking the diplomacy in this game more than the other 2 games, simply because it is in-game. That divorce between in-game voice and out-of-game voice, it really clearly delineates that and makes it much, much cleaner. I sort of wonder what the last game would have been like if we had had Dominions 5 instead of Dominions 4 and been able to sort of do the diplomacy this way. I think it would have been a very, very different feel to the game. It's because it was exhausting, that last one. So this has been a much more fun game to play, I guess, because of that. You're not nowhere near as fatiguing. Yes, I think that's pretty much it for me. Really, it's just been it's been enjoyable. I've learned a hell of a lot, I've got to say, just from watching by having a faction where I've got so many spies, got them all over the place. I've seen so many battles between awesome troops, and I think, oh my god, like I actually went into this game thinking that. In fact, I went into the last series choosing man because I thought that late age man was overpowered, from what I've been told. So I sort of came in thinking, okay, I'll make the decision in middle age, I'll lose that one, and then I'll do really, really well in the late age game. Of course, it doesn't turn out that way, but it's sort of funny because I actually came into this thinking I'm going to be a bit of a powerhouse in this, but then when I started seeing the battles with the rest of you guys, it was like, oh my God, this is just such a whole other degree or whole other level of game playing that it's just well and truly beyond me. But it's really, really great to see it. I love being able to actually have chosen a faction where I've been able to see so many battles from other players. That's been really, really such an eye opener for me.
Yeah, and I'm the only other one here, I think, from our previous games, and I think I've said kind of everything I probably would have to say on this. About the diplomacy and etc. And also, I'll just spend my time and say something back to what Sequani brought up about lore and Daz, you alluded to, which is we've tried to kind of pick our factions to keep sort of a narrative. So this is the 3rd part, in my mind, of a 3-part series where we tried to kind of keep a continuity between all of our nations to kind of honor the lore of Dominions itself by seeing how the nations do with each other going forward. So that's why I don't know if Battle Moose would have picked Ulm as a strong nation, but he was kind enough to take Ulm since he played Ulm last game. And for me, Midgard as well, I'm finding I have a little bit better handle on it than I did when I first kind of arbitrarily chose Helheim, just because I liked Valkyries. And as far as the difference, it's like I look back on that very first game we played, and I feel like I've kind of become a very different player compared to the previous games. I feel so much more. I feel much more entertained by this one while I'm in the game too. Not to say that the other ones weren't fun, but the viewership has been very encouraging as well. So yeah, I'm finding this to be a much more lighthearted of the 3 games we've played. This one's the most lighthearted I've gotten to play.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so next question. What would your next Dom 5 game look like? Setup, logistics, etc. So this is something me and Lucid talked about a little bit. So go ahead, Sequani, start us off, and we'll go back up the list again. I know you may not have much to say about it, but
what do you mean exactly? You mean like if I had to design like the next YouTuber's multiplayer game, what kind of setup would I do?
Yeah, sure. That would be a good way to answer it.
Well, that's a good question, actually. I think so. The number of players is interesting here, because, like I said, I have mostly played games with on larger maps with more players, but I have played a few sort of smaller scale games, and I'm fine with the smaller scale. I actually really like the idea what you just described, which was that people were playing the same nations throughout the ages. I kind of wish the Disciples game seemed like a great idea, and I felt we didn't pull it off just because of the kind of meme blesses that went on. I remember talking with Lucid a little bit when we were thinking about that game, and we were trying to think if there was a way to do like a kind of role play, like the same, use different nations, like I don't know, like the 3, like the Mans together from the different ages together as a Disciple team. And we were throwing a lot of ideas, but I wouldn't mind giving Disciples another shot with some kind of understanding about, either like an understanding that we're just going to go for a legit hardcore, do whatever you can to win, and in that case, sure, like go meme giants all you want. Or if it's more of a, like I feel most of these series that I've watched from you guys, it's not that you're not trying to win, but it's also not all the YouTubers are like super hardcore, know all the details about the game. And I think there's a lot of potential in the Disciples series to do, to make some teams that are fun and interesting, have some kind of system for incorporating strong nations and shitty nations together, like as built into the design. And also just the idea of Disciples and having a teammate. It changes the mechanics of the game a lot, but I think it makes for interesting content to put on a channel. So I wouldn't be, if it happens, I wouldn't be against giving Disciples another shot and just maybe trying to make sure the gameplay wasn't so so imbalanced as it was when we tried it last time. Because my other preference is these longer games, but we don't have enough players, I think, to make one of those big all nation games that are all YouTubers. So I wouldn't mind going for another Disciples style game. I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah, good. We talked about that ourselves before too. We can keep talking about that too off camera. Nukrim, how about you?
What we talked about before we started recording, we're doing like the Blitz mode. I think would be a lot of fun to try. I've never tried it. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, we call it Blitz. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try one of those games.
Sorry to butt in. That is also a great idea that I hadn't thought of, but that's great quick content, right? Just like get 4 people together, turn on the recording, play for 2.5 hours. There you go. 6 episodes, just chop it up.
Yep.
One evening, done.
How long do the turns last on those? Is that something you set up?
Well, because you can set a maximum timer, but because everybody is there, then as soon as everybody's done their turn, it just rolls over. So in the early game, the turns can be like 3 minutes long. Like the idea is you all get together for a block of like 4 hours on Thursday evening or whatever. Right. And everybody logs on and you just play the whole game in a 4-hour sitting.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect. I would like that.
Lucid?
And you mentioned
go ahead.
starting with like teammates. I think would be kind of a cool idea too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Actually,
How about you, Lucid?
Yeah, the teammates is really fun. The problem with teammates is you have effectively fewer nations in the game. So if you have 8 people playing and you're in teams of 2, then it's really only 4 teams. And the problem with that is if one team starts getting ahead and they eat one other team, now they're twice as big as any other nation. So just the way the game mechanics work, even if the other 2 remaining players gang up on the one person that ate somebody else, it's the game state kind of doesn't stay balanced very long. So
what about with 2 teams?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, 2 teams would be really fun actually, because then there's no real game state and diplomacy. It's just kind of a death match.
Yeah.
The other way to do it is to
That would be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the inverse is you make it an all nations game, and it's all like insane AI, and in between them you have the 4 teams of 2, right?
So it's still one AI paired with 1 player.
No. You just have like whatever 20.
Yeah. There's so much
nations.
randomness with who the AI determines to attack, though. If 4 of the AIs attack you and they're attacking you with 200 troop armies every turn, it's really hard.
Yeah.
All right, maybe not my best idea, but
Actually, what about though if you actually set up a game like that, but you ended up with 2 teams, 1 team of AIs and a group of players that were all on 1 team?
Oh no, I was thinking just
That
as a
would be
way
fun.
to dilute the power.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do humans versus AI. Yeah.
It would
But
be
in a
kind
way,
of
you
fun
could
to
actually
have.
you could live record that, because you can then talk about your strategy as you're actually playing. You could actually make that would be if there's only like three of you or something that were doing it, that would be a pretty good way of doing it.
That would be a
Lucy,
lot of fun.
How many players
we could all
can
be
you
on the same
have on
voice
one
chat.
disciple?
Oh, go ahead. First Lucid, then Sequani.
That would be pretty easy to do. So to answer your question, you can have up to, I think, an unlimited amount of people on a Disciples team. You just only have 1 pretender.
Huh.
But that would be fun too, because we could all be on the same chat, and so there wouldn't be any need to, like, if we did a blitz, we'd have to have the
blitz.
Discord overlay on the screen, and we'd have to keep going to it to switch which chat channel we're in, especially when we're doing kind of secretive diplomacy, which would be
that'd be a pain.
a little bit of a pain, but it would still be fun. But
See, I disagree with you guys there, and that's coming from board gaming experience, which I talked to Lucid about a little bit before, which is I think even if we did a free-for-all, having a public chat, it's just going to be more like playing a board game where everybody's sitting at the table, and so you can't, like, the diplomacy is all very open, and it's very entertaining. And then if you want to have like a secret message to somebody, it's like passing a note under the table, or it's like going into the bedroom, and it's like one of those things where it's kind of like it takes
Everybody
a little bit
knows.
of extra. Yeah, everybody kind of can tell, like, he's been quiet for a bit, and I can hear his typing in the background of his microphone. So I wonder what's going on here. So I still think that would be a lot of fun to try, just to have like the open discussion. And it's kind of like now you have people arguing with each other over who the third person should be attacking. Anyway, like I said, I would love to do a blitz game and even have the open, even with the problem of having everybody on the same audio channel and just not worrying about it. Like, I think it'd be great.
And I'll just throw in, make a mixed drink and sit down for 3 hours. That would be fun.
Yeah. And also in terms of like what I would do differently with this game is, like I said, every time we do this, we try something kind of different in logistics. But I think based on what you guys were saying about the 24-hour turn reminders and stuff like that, I would say I would not do the 6-day timer again. I think we tried it this time for a specific reason based on our previous game. But I think if anybody's watching who's thinking about doing it, 6 days didn't work out the way I was hoping it would. So that's one thing I would definitely do differently, even if we did play by email.
Oh, just to mention, one other fun game mode is it's called Crappy Nations or Bad Nations, and everybody picks a bad nation, but not for them, for the pool. And then once everybody's picked a bad nation, then everybody gets a random bad nation.
I that is one of my favorite series of Dominions. Was your Bad Nations series? That was very, very entertaining, and yeah, I would love to do. I mean, that just, I told you guys earlier how I love to play Bad Nations in the first place, so that's perfect for me. I would love to do that.
I actually don't know what the bad nations are. I don't know what the good nations are.
No, you make them custom. Like you don't just pick.
Okay.
You custom design a bad nation. Although that might be tricky because depending on different players' knowledge of the game, like some people might be able to design a truly horrible nation, but others might not realize that what they thought was terrible actually has this very powerful combination, right? If you didn't have very in-depth knowledge of the game. But
I played single player games where you just press the R key. Choose your faction, then just press the R key, and whatever it rolls for you, that's what you're going to play with.
Yeah.
Well, what's nice about Bad Nations is somebody gives you a setup, but then you do have some agency, right? Depending how it was set up, Lucid, did you design the Pretender still?
I think that was actually Nuclear Monkey that did it, but the video.
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if I set out to design a good nation, it would probably be a bad one.
Well, I would still do it where you get to design your Pretender. I think that's fun, but you just that way you don't get all the thing is in competitive multiplayer. There's nations that get banned like Airmore, and then there's nations that people really are like cringing when they join a game like Nazca because you're going to have to do tag teams on them. If it's 1v1 with them, like if a good player plays Nazca, they're going to 1v1 kill almost any other player. Same thing, I think, for Scalaria. But if you do Bad Nations, then in general, you're not going to have those. It's going to be other nations for which there's not some dominant strategy that's just going to wreck everyone.
Actually, before we go to the next question...
go ahead.
I just want to, just for full disclosure, I've actually, I haven't been recording the vision. So I'm going to have to go back and just get like a screen grab of each of the questions, I think, because, I was looking across, that screenshot I took early on before we started recording?
Yeah.
I was looking at that as I was glancing across thinking, I'm on. This is in Discord, and my actual OBS is it's got a black screen up until now.
For those that don't know, anyway. Daz is a new YouTuber. He's been only going for like a month now, so
Well, Nuclear, you're recording this too as backup, right?
All right, I am.
Okay, cool.
I'll take some. I'll have to go back through the questions. I've got it now recording, but I'll go back and just.
I'll send it to you on text as well in email.
I'll just take a screen grab in here after we finish.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, I thought I'd just let you know because I was looking across. I thought, God, an hour and a half, and I've only just switched on the vision.
We only have a few more questions left. So, Lucid, you were starting to answer this question. How have you described this game to people in the real world? So Daz, do you want to start?
Well, I guess comes back to that question about actually this vibrating. Is it vibrating for everybody else? Yeah. Anyway,
it is. It is vibrating.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, it's even worse. Okay. Anyway, it comes back to that question. One of you mentioned about trying to tell your girlfriend about it, and it's something I very rarely now talk to anybody that I know in the real world about gaming at all because none of my friends play games at all. Like it's and I guess the only one at times my wife will be interested in the personal interaction that we have in this sort of game like Dominions, but not actually in any other sort of sense. So it's quite funny. It's in that sort of sense. My wife gets interested in the personal interaction, but not in the game itself. And none of my friends could give a rat's ass about games in any sense whatsoever. They're blown away by like Dwarf Fortress, for example. That's probably the one game that I do try to explain to people because that does have real world benefit. Like it actually, you can learn a lot from Dwarf Fortress. It's a lot of the principles about mining and stuff they do hold true, and the different layers of sediments and things like this. It's actually really, really quite accurate, and I've learned a hell of a lot about. And I've actually ended up picking up work. I do graphics, and I've picked up work through playing Dwarf Fortress, believe it or not. So it's so it does have real world sort of application.
I've learned so much geology.
Yeah,
it is. like the geology side, it's. I remember going into a meeting once with a whole lot of engineers, and they were talking about aquifers, and I knew exactly what they were talking about. And it was like, yeah, okay, I understand. But no, it's in this sort of sense. So yeah, when I've tried to describe it, I really tend to gloss over the gamings because but none of my friends play games.
How about you, Lucid?
I've tried to describe it to people. It doesn't. Yeah. I think it's one of those things that one thing actually would be interesting. So when I put this video up on my channel, if anybody's still watching an hour and 40 minutes into it, I wonder how many people watch my Dominions videos that don't actively play Dominions themselves. Because in some way, when that's happening, it's us talking to people who don't necessarily know or play the game. But I think I kind of think about those people too when I'm recording, because I'm thinking, like, what is the romance in the game for me, and how do I describe that to somebody? But yeah, I've tried with my girlfriend. I don't think she really gets it. So I don't know. It's yeah.
How about you, Nucleum?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Daz, where none of my friends really play these kinds of games. So I don't really have much of an answer for you. I would like to know how Daz describes playing Dwarf Fortress to people. We'll do that afterwards. Because, people ask what I play on YouTube, and I say, well, a lot of different things. I do have one game I play consistently, and then I have to go try to describe that, and I have never successfully done so. So
I haven't either. I can't successfully describe it.
It's sort of like Moria, but as a game that you can't read.
I don't even try anymore, to be honest, with it, because Dwarf Fortress is just so different. And it's people, like all my friends, I said Dwarf Fortress, they call it Underground Dwarves. So that's and anybody that comes along that hasn't heard that I play Underground Dwarves, because that's what they think of it as, they immediately, it's a constant source of derision directed at me that I play this particular game. So, it's sort of like, someone comes along that doesn't know, they'll say, oh, you're never going to guess what Daz does. Like, he plays this Underground Dwarves game and he got work out of it.
You know what's,
so, yeah.
What's an interesting thing is, I don't know if you know how the original SimCity was developed. Have any of y'all heard that story?
I don't think so.
So Will Wright, who's the developer who made it, or Bill Wright, anyway,
Will Wright.
Yeah, he basically designed it just as a simulation to see if they could understand certain things about how cities work, like why you have traffic patterns in certain ways, why you have congestion, why you have, people leaving certain parts of the city and moving to others. So it's kind of just set up as a basic way to understand how the world worked. And then he was surprised when people actually found it fun. Like that, okay, it turns out this simulation is actually a game. So I think that's some of the element that I have trouble describing to people. Like, Dwarf Fortress is essentially a simulation. And so,
it is, yes.
Why do you find a simulation interesting? Well, I don't know, because I think it's interesting how, understanding how things work.
Yeah, it is, and it's alternate histories and things like that as well. It's it is fascinating.
Yeah.
How about you, Sequani?
I had the only person I've really explained it as to any extent was my wife, who was sort of like wondering. I was typing furiously away on Discord like several months ago, and I mean, she knows about the games that I play, and she is a bit of a gamer herself. We played some Minecraft and Factorio and whatnot together, but I was just typing furiously away, and then I had to explain to her, like, I was doing diplomacy for one of these Dominion 5 games, and when you think about it, like, in most of these games, most of the time spent is doing diplomacy, right? Like, yeah, some nations have a lot of micro, but a lot of this game is just diplomacy. And really, in all of these strategy games, that is the real story, right? To somebody who doesn't play your particular game, even a gamer, right? Imagine you had never played Dominions 5, but you played like Civilization or something like that. You know, telling them about, oh yeah, I had to script my mage and I didn't put the gems, and then I'm going to fatigue them, or like, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is like, oh, so I'm bordering these 4 other nations. You know, I had early conflict with this one, but now we've kind of settled to a truce, and now I've got to stop them because they're going to become powerful and whatever. And so that's kind of the story of the game. And so if you phrase it as like a contest, you know, as a multiplayer game that's just a contest, and the diplomacy, then that makes it really accessible to people, right? We're concerned about the details, but you know, they're not. It doesn't matter, right? Like you can say, oh, because they're really strong because they have giants, and that's it. Like you give names, right? So the giants.
Have you successfully done this, or is this theory crafting about how we could explain it?
No. I mean, that's how I explained it to her, and then she would ask me, and she's like, oh, like how are the giants doing, and how, you know, you got to simplify it down. Okay. Like who cares? You know, you got to be like, oh, the elves, the giants. I forget what other nations. I was playing Tenchi, so I was a Chinese. You know, whatever. You just like one name. Like I guess in this game it'll be like the Vikings, I don't know, like Mictlan. You could say the Mayans, but you could just be like the naked blood drinking people. Like, you know, you gotta boil it down to its essence, right? Like Saltiness is like the zombie lizard people. You know, the horse, the centaur people for Pangea, right? You've got like nations, you give them a tag that people can remember, and then it's like, oh yeah, the damn, you know, the Vikings betrayed me, or the vampire people attacked the human knights or whatever, right? It becomes a drama. It becomes Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Is that's how you gotta sell it to people. It's Game of Thrones with bad graphics.
Yeah, that's going back to like what I feel I learned in the game a lot too, is just like how do actual conflicts start, you know, and that's where I feel like Dominions is very educational about like how real politic works. And for me, when I've described it, I've only maybe ever described it to 2 people of the opposite sex, and I don't describe it at all to like other people I know who are gamers, just because I don't want them to know that I'm a gamer. Like a lot of people at work, because I'm a programmer, so obviously everybody plays computer games, and like some people talk about like what they do very openly, and so I make a point of like kind of looking down on them, like, you play video games, I don't. Just because, yeah, I don't want to have to justify how niche I feel like some of the games I do play are. But yeah, like one woman I was describing it to, I'm trying to remember how I described it exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm in this game, and it's funny because we're all grown men getting angry at each other over essentially a virtual board game. And she's like, oh, that sounds interesting. So it's very charitable. So yeah, I just kind of like what Sakani was saying. It's like, just boil it down to its essential, and it's just a bunch of people getting together to have an argument. So
that's actually a great way to describe it. A bunch of grown men getting angry at each other about a board game.
Yeah, but I mean that's been my experience with board games too.
It takes 5 months to play.
Yeah, well, we can do better next time, I'm sure. So anyway, I put this next question is just kind of a bit of a joke. How likely are you to recommend Dominions 5 to a friend? Daz, do you want to start out?
Yeah, look, to an actual physical friend that I meet, none of them play games, so I would never do it. But look, I consider in an extended way, like by playing these games and even talking about it online, you've got a relationship with your subscribers, your viewers, and things like that. And I've got no hesitation at all in recommending the game. I love the game. I've loved it. You know, it's just so deep. It's probably the deepest strategy game as in a pure strategy game like this. I mean, Dwarf Fortress is in a different category as far as like a simulation is concerned, but Dominions, there's no strategy game like it, and nothing comes close to it. So yeah, I highly recommend it to people who ask me about the game.
Lucid?
I had tried. My brother and I used to play video games together, and I have tried so hard to get him to play this game with me, and he just won't do it. He's like, the graphics aren't good enough. I'm not going to play it. So that's probably my only hard sell I've tried to make, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I wish Dwarf Comic were here because he's similarly done the same thing. How about you, Nucrium?
I get asked all the time about like games to recommend, and I can't think of any better like recent complex strategy games than Dominions 5. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one.
How about you, Sequani?
I think you gotta pick your target audience because it's a very, this game is not for everybody, but I think for there are a lot of people out there who probably don't know it or are turned off, like you said, by the graphics, but who would really enjoy it. So, if you meet people in other gaming communities, there's a certain kind of gamer that I think this kind of deep strategy game can really appeal to, and those are the kinds of people you gotta make the sales pitch to. But I don't know anybody in real life that would be interested in playing this game, so I don't try. But
actually, I think that this has got more broad appeal than just hardcore strategy gamers. To be honest, I think that you can play the game single player in a very simplistic way.
Yeah, I agree, but it takes this game takes a lot of suspension of disbelief because of the clunky UI and the graphics. You're not getting a lot of that instant gratification. Like if you were playing Civilization 6 or whatever they're up to now as a casual quote unquote, big air quotes around that, gamer, where you just wanted to kind of role play the experience of being ancient Egypt, you're going to get a lot of gratification from that just because of how the game's presented. Here, if I'm playing, whatever nation just for the cultural appropriation, that you're, the value you're getting there, you're not getting that, right? It's just.
I think this would lean more towards board gamers.
Yeah.
As a strategy game, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Is that this goes back to why I don't want to talk to people I know as acquaintances about video games, is because I don't want to have to try to. They talk about the games they like, and it's like I don't want to have to try to explain to them a completely different type of game that I like, and like I don't want to talk about Dominions or some of the other games that I play. But what Nucrium was saying though is like board gaming. Like I would recommend this to a board gamer. Like I have lots of friends who I still think about from my board gaming days, who I'm like, oh man, I know that they would really like this game. So that's my point of view. Anyway, I had one more question just to explode. So to stray into controversial territory, why is Dominion such a guy thing, or is it? Or are strategy games in general? Or is YouTube that's a guy thing? So I don't know what you guys' demographics are, but I think I have like 99% male viewership.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's I do have some females that watch, and some actually participate, like in the chat and things like that as well. And I think that, I'm not big on political correctness or anything like that, but I do think that games. In fact, it's sort of funny. It leads on to all sorts of really much deeper questions. like Gamergate and all sorts of different things like that. It can actually really sort of extend quite a long way out. And so, like in this sort of sense, I don't think this game is purely a guy thing. I think that guys tend to gravitate towards these sort of games sort of fairly natively, but that's not exclusive. And certainly I know that there's YouTubers as well. There's female YouTubers that play the game. BirdieBot, for example, who is so I don't know. I don't think we've seen any Birdie bots in this particular game.
Yeah, that's right.
She's a YouTuber who plays Dominions. So it's predominantly guys, but then, I don't know. Like, it's sort of funny because when I do look at my stats, it is predominantly, like, it is about 95% male, but there is that still 5% female. And as I say, they do participate. And I love it actually that it's, not 100%, to be honest. But it does open up a whole other, because it's a whole other can of worms if you sort of go too far down that rabbit hole.
Well, that's why I saved this one for last.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lucid.
I'm sorry, I had to step out for a minute. What was the question?
To stray into controversial territory, why is Dominion such a guy thing, or is it? Or are strategy games in general a guy thing? Or is it YouTube that's a guy thing?
The best thing I've heard on... So, okay, one thing was I went and looked at Google Analytics just to see what, where people who watched my videos were from and things like that, which it's amazing all those features exist. But yeah, my audience was like 99.5% men. And that probably comes from being a Dominions only content. But I don't know. I think like engineering and math and stuff, which are traditionally perceived as male pursuits, I think what they found is in Scandinavia and other places where they've done an active job kind of breaking that and making it where, they expose women to it or girls to it early in school. And,
well, they try to break down stereotypes
Yeah.
and expectations that
Right.
you should do this and you should do that.
Yeah, and so when they do that, then women actually have taken up engineering type positions more than men even. So, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a fact of how it is today. I don't think it's necessarily something that they couldn't like that women couldn't like, or that women couldn't be good at. I just think for whatever reason, they're not right now.
Nugrim, any thoughts?
I was just looking at my numbers. I'm at 96% male, 4% female.
Oh, you're the most diverse appealing of all of us.
As far as YouTube being a guy thing, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, there's Catherine of Sky is another female YouTuber. That's
Yeah, she does
pretty big.
Factorio.
No, not
similar.
YouTube, but Dominions.
I don't know about I don't know about the diversity of Dominions. So I don't have an answer.
But I
there,
guess strategy gaming in general.
But if
too,
Nucleum, with
is-
all of his diversity, is 96.
I'm actually surprised it was. I thought it was going to be more than that. I'm surprised.
What about you, Sequani? By the way, how do we say your name? Is it Sequani?
That should be the last question.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's I would say it's Sakne.
Sakne? Okay.
Second,
Yeah, it's just.
I've been saying Sakwane.
Yeah, that's okay if you make it a softer or harder Q. It's just an alternative spelling of a geographical area. I think. Well, I think Lucid kind of came very close, but I think there just in general are few women in gaming, and that's because it's on average a fairly sort of sexist and misogynist kind of culture still to this day. And in all the content that I've seen put out by the people in this room, I haven't experienced any of that, but in general as a culture, that's just the reality of it. And so it's sort of no surprise that more women aren't attracted to gaming, or women or young girls who might potentially be attracted to it, are going to encounter comments that the young guys who are part of gaming just kind of will write or say in an offhand way that, they don't realize, or it doesn't occur to them that it's offensive, but it actually is. And so I think part of fostering a gaming community is, you got to kind of try extra hard. You got to go the extra mile to sometimes it's just the kind of vocabulary that you use. It doesn't occur to you that it could be seen as offensive or misogynistic in some way, but it probably is. But in the echo chamber of the young male dominated gaming community, doesn't occur to anybody that it's a problem. So I think that's
Actually, I disagree with that. I think it's changed a lot over the last 10 years. I think that
yes, I would agree. I agree that it's definitely changing a lot. I don't want to imply that it's the same as what it was 10 years ago. I think you're absolutely right about that. But there's part of the problem though is that content is still there, right?
Just as a very subtlety, though, I'm playing a Blood Nation, and my magic is fueled by the blood of virgin women. So
Yeah.
So, like right there, it's like built in, right? So it's kind of, and
I don't see that as
could be okay.
To be honest, I see that as that is sort of traditional sort of thinking. It's what I don't like is what I used to not like when I used to play first-person shooters was some of the comments and chat that you would get, and so I actually ended up finding a group that didn't sort of speak in a derogative way. But as far as things being sort of in a coming from like a historic or something, some other sort of other thing. That's what I don't like. Like, I think political correctness can go too far, where it starts to sort of change what. Like, this is based on mythologies, which were real, and it was a masculine world. It's in that sort of sense, I don't have any problem with the game. Look, and vice versa. I also quite like it when games actually have female characters. And this game, I think, has got a lot of female. A lot of the heroes are females, or the pretenders. You get a fair few different female pretenders, and they're just as good as the male ones. And so, I don't know, like there's aspects, but I think that sort of harkens back to the right back to the mythology that it comes from. But I find it personally, I like the balance in the game.
Yeah, I should stress that I'm actually, although I do think some games do a poor choice or make poor choices in their design when it comes to gender roles. In terms of Dominions, like you say, it is based on sort of historical cultures, and so I certainly can't fault it for that. To me, it's more of like just the culture. Like, in other words, if you're a random young guy, you're much more likely to stumble into some gaming content on YouTube, right? Just based on your interests. And then you're not going to think, oh, I better not go there. It might be unpleasant, right? But if you're a young girl who's like randomly browsing on YouTube, you randomly stumble into some gaming content, it's very likely that you're going to be offended by what you hear, just statistically, right? And so it's more of a general sort of gaming community thing. It's not so much about the game itself. So there's just a lot of progress still needs to be made, I think, in that department.
Yeah,
I think that's across the board, though. It's not just a gender thing. I think it's like there's a game. When I started doing multiplayer gaming, I joined a group called the Older Gamers, and they've got a very, very detailed and explicit code of ethics. And that's actually why I joined it, because they don't allow that sort of chat, and they haven't allowed that for a long, long time. I think they started off with that code of ethics to actually make it as inclusive and diverse as possible. And for me, it was a great community. And and that was I had the same thing. I hated playing first-person shooters where there was with the chat of like, I don't know, sort of really derogatory sort of chat about all sorts of different things like racism, sexism, and stuff like that. As I say, I'm not politically correct, but in that sort of sense, it did go too far. But I haven't seen that in gaming for a long, long time. I guess I don't play first-person shooters anymore, but I did search out the Older Gamers and that was actually, it was a much more inclusive group, and that was incredibly good.
Yeah, I one interesting thing Lucid touched on that for me, it wasn't a matter of like I'm thinking about like how I present to the world, but just privately. It took me a long time to get past the blood virgins in this game, and like all blood nations. Like I just had this like kind of guttural, visceral dislike for it, and all I can say is it for me was similar to like how I talked to Lucid once about Scalaria versus Ys. And that like some nations are just more charismatic than others. And that was an uncharismatic mechanic in the game, was the blood versions. And I've gotten past it. But yeah, it was a weird thing about it. And then the other thing too, for why I think maybe some of these games and strategy games are more male, is I wonder if men are just more infatuated with conflict than women, and that's going into sort of stereotypical images I think we have in society of what men are like versus what women are like. And I think there's an interesting discussion by people who know more than I do about it, about whether that's actually something that is tied to the way women and men are, because I mean we obviously have physical differences. It's not a far stretch to think that there might be emotional differences that are kind of, you can see manifesting in averages. But I mean, I have I don't have a lot, but I have plenty of, well, actually, I don't have a lot of friends, period. But my female friends, they're all, I remember one of them said like, when talking about Dominion, she was like, it seems like such a guy thing to just want to fight. And I kind of wonder if that's the case. It's like, it's just one of those things.
There's an aspect of truth to that. I think that if you look at puzzle games, and I should actually try to see. I don't put up very many puzzle games, but I think that you'd have the audience would be a little bit different with those. I would imagine.
Yeah,
I think that's a much more would be a much more even split than the strategy games. But the strategy games are about conflict, and I guess that is more of a masculine sort of leaning thing that you sort of get involved in. But having said that, one of my daughters actually loves, she likes Might and Magic, Heroes of Might and Magic.
Oh yeah.
So that was her favourite game. Actually, one of my other daughters loved Age of Wonders when she was growing up. Absolutely loved it. So I don't know. It's different, really. I've got 3 daughters, so. And actually, there is one little story where I was playing a first-person shooter. I was playing I forget what's the game with Dust as the map. Dust is one of the famous maps for this particular game. I forget what it's called. Anyway, what was it? Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say there's a game called Dust too.
Oh no, this is old. This is an old. It was just anyway. I had to go out of the room, and she was in the room, and she would have been about 13 or so at the time. And I said, can you just play for me in this round? And I thought that she'd run forward, get shot, and then that'd be the end of it. Anyway, she hid in the corner. And when I got back, and she was there really not wanting to play anything, and she was hiding in this corner of this map. And everybody on the team was chatting, "Get out and kill him!" And she was the last one left, and it was a really negative impact. Everyone sort of screaming at her to actually do something.
So great parenting moment there. You took your 13-year-old daughter and asked like 20 other men to scream to try to kill her. Yeah,
I did feel guilty about that. But she enjoyed it. Like she enjoyed because of the tension. But it was not something that was. It was only gone for about 5 minutes, but it was just something where she just was hiding in this corner where no one could find her, and everyone in the team was wanting her to get out and do something.
But going back to aesthetics, though, I do wonder if part of it. Maybe I'm wrong because maybe some of it's aesthetics because Fortnite is really huge right now. And I think it's huge kind of across the board, but it's a first-person shooter game, right? It's just got a much more kind of, I don't know, a more wacky, I haven't ever played it, but it's got a different aesthetic, though, from a lot of the other traditional, Counter-Strike or whatever first-person shooter games that are team-based,
Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking back to when I used to play Minecraft, like the server that I play on there.
Oh, go ahead, Daz.
Yep. So that aesthetic, I think, has a part to do with it. But Minecraft was certainly one that was very split 50-50.
Yeah. Well, my friend also has daughters, and they love playing Minecraft as well. And I mean, I can see the appeal too. It's a building game. You're not going around trying to ruin other people's nations. You're trying to work together to build something. But but as a guy, I like those games too. So I don't think that's necessarily a gendered thing per se. But anyway, do you guys have any other closing thoughts? Any other things we can say to blow?
Silence.
No,
I don't have
really.
anything else to add.
Yeah.
Let's all just talk together.
Well, actually, I should say, wait a minute, but thank you for organizing this. This is the first session that I was able to join, and it's actually fun to just hang out and answer questions that the viewers have, and also just get to know you guys. And also, thank you for having me in this game. And I should say, as an announcement to everybody else, that I actually have finally recorded episodes for this YouTuber series, and I should be uploading them. Hopefully, I'll be able to upload them over the weekend. But my life has just been so hectic with moving and not having my equipment that it's only taken me 2 months to do it. But I finally got the first episodes done. So. Oh,
really? I thought you'd been uploading the whole time.
No, I really haven't been able to. I've tried, but I've been stuck. Yeah. So there actually will be a playlist soon. So those links. I'll send you guys the links, and you can put them up. But
I've already been linking to your playlist. Actually, Sakwane, we have to get your link as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because Yeah, it's Sakane speaking. So yeah, I
Oh,
haven't given you
sorry, I
my
thought it
link.
was Nucleum.
No, I haven't given you my link because it doesn't exist. Like I haven't uploaded anything yet. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought
Yeah.
I was watching the screen. I thought it was him that was speaking.
Oh no, I've been uploading.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm sure you guys have been very responsible YouTubers. I'm the one who's been slacking.
I've been watching all of Nucleum's videos.
What?
What?
Yeah, so have I. I've got a plan when I go into the lake. Got to time it just right.
I've decided to name that Lake Satis.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead.
I had one thing, Whitestar.
Oh, yeah.
I put a link in the Discord chat. I'll also put it in the description for this video. But a guy named Taurek, who's on Discord, he organized a great set of guides for all the different nations. I don't know if all of our nations are in there, but I put it there just so it might be a fun thing for y'all to read through while we've still got 10 or 15 turns left for the game, just to see what other people think about the nation you're playing. So anyway, if you click on the link, you scroll down and you click on spoiler for your nation, it'll show you the guide for that nation, which is kind of interesting.
Okay, I have to remember to put that in the description for the video as well.
One last thing I'll say too is I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's another YouTuber named Time and Tactics, and he started a series playing all of our nations single player. I stopped watching because he was, I think, also trying to make the Pretenders according to what we did, but I wanted to make sure our viewers, those of you who are still left, if you're interested, that might be an interesting thing to check out. I'm going to check it out after we finish our game. But anyway, let's go through and just say goodbye and any last thoughts for our viewers before we go back into the breach.
I'd like to actually thank the viewers for for this. I guess for watching. I know it's a long time between episodes and things when we're sort of uploading these different things, but there's a very active engagement and. Yeah, it's sort of. I guess I don't know. I guess we all would feel the same. We appreciate that they have stayed with the series, even though it does take a long time to sort of play out. I know that some people are actually looking at all of the videos. Other ones are just following individual YouTubers and things, and that's great as well. Whichever way. And look, I haven't had any spoilers whatsoever from anybody, which has been fantastic as well. So it's a very responsible community that we actually are part of, which I feel blessed to be part of this sort of strategy community, to be honest, because it's not what I expected going into YouTube. I really thought it was going to be something very, very different.
Yeah, I thought for sure I was going to get spoilers, but I haven't had any. Chat's been great.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's been one of the more affirming elements of like being a YouTuber and doing the series in particular is seeing like, wow, actually people can be really amazing when they just want to be. You know, I mean, I don't mean to say that so cynically, but I mean, it just wasn't my expectation. And so, I think everybody who's been watching and been responsible and courteous and really, I'd like to thank the viewers too for helping to kind of keep things in perspective for me as well. I think it's made me a better gamer, a more patient person too when gaming. So yeah, I just like, I like how great everybody's been. It's nice to know that people can be great.
Yeah, no, it's good.
All right, Squanty, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I do want to thank the viewers and also I think it's important to thank you guys, the YouTubers community who are putting a lot of effort into this. And I personally am putting as little effort as possible into this. It's just sort of an
don't say that
thing.
Edit that out.
No, I'm being honest here, right? I do this because to me it adds enjoyment to playing the game, is talking about the game as I play it. But I wouldn't have been motivated to put out this content if it weren't for the content that I've seen other YouTubers put out. And so thanks for creating that space for us, sort of part-time sort of hobbyists to come on and join it. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the content that we can put out.
All right, well, great, guys. I'm going to call that a wrap. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will see you back in the game. And we will also see you again, hopefully, with Sabouts. I'm sorry he didn't make it today. We're going to also try to get Battle Moose and Dwarf Comic. They will hopefully be a part of our final end game after action report for our late age Dominions 5, the end of the world as we know it. All right. Let's say goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yep. See you later.
Goodbye.
All right.